Chairman, Chairperson, all my fellow colleagues on the dais and fellow participants. So I have 15 minutes, and I think 15 minutes is for you, Venkat. So I will try to close within with those 15 minutes. It was a wonderful inaugural session this morning. We had two very prominent and great people who have set the context for this important national consultation. One, of course, the very father of a green revolution, and the second, the Honorable Vice President himself, who is now so keen about agriculture that only last month we had a national consultation on agriculture at Pune, and we had people drawn from different parts of the country, and the strategy for sustainable agriculture and also doubling of farmers' income was discussed at that particular consultation. And then anytime in Delhi we organize anything, the first advice that we get from Prime Minister's office is to go and call on the Honorable Vice President, seek what his inputs are to organize that kind of an event. So that's the trust that government has in him. So it was wonderful that this morning we had these two great people set the tone. And we must thank MSSRF, led by none other than the father of the Green Revolution, to bring focus on nutrition, because we have been always talking about food security. And I think it is now passé. India is food secure, and we need now to look at nutrition security. And parallelly, we also need to look at income security of the farmers, because the Indian farmers have actually ensured that India is food secure, but nation hasn't ensured that the farmers are income secure. And that's why today we have as high as 22% of the farmers living below poverty line, at a very low level of income of rupees 6,426 per agriculture family per month, as per 2012-13 survey. Now, at the current prices in 2015-16, that rupees 78,000 annual income has gone up to around 98,000 rupees. So just imagine how poor the farmers are. One point that I must bring to your notice, that yes, India, as per 2011 census, we have as high a percentage of 28 below poverty line. And you might say that farmers are only 22% below poverty line. But then the irony is, farmers' poverty stands in contrast to the general poverty. The reason being, farmers have an asset, and that biggest asset is their land. Also they have cattle and other kinds of assets. Despite owning asset, they are not able to generate enough income, enough productive employment to live a dignified life. And therefore, there is a difference between the farmer-linked poverty and a general population-linked poverty, where large number of people may not be having access to assets. Now, leaving it at that, the context today is that how agriculture become central to achieving the nutritional security of the country. India has been talking about demographic dividend. We had United States, which had an advantage of demographic dividend in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, almost till late 60s, and therefore you saw where USA went up. Beginning in 1970s, it was China's turn, and for 30 years they enjoyed demographic dividend. They took advantage of that. 2000s up to 2050 almost is India's era. We have the demographic dividend. But just because we have majority of the population within the youth group or within the young population does not automatically mean that India is going to grow up. It is a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition. The necessary condition is, yes, we have a working population. But a sufficient condition is that this population is enabled to work and contribute to the Indian society, which means that they should enjoy good health, good education, good skills, and be provided an opportunity to contribute. And health is the basis of all that. But unfortunately, that today, one of the largest number of nutrition-related diseases are in India. Let's say kwashiorkor, for example, which is linked to nutrition. It is one of the highest in India. We have one of the highest percentage of stunted growth, higher percentage of wasted growth, highest percentage of malnourishment. So this is an irony. And how do we now see that agriculture now actually becomes the core platform for transforming India's health status. Now, when we define food security, we all know what it is. FAO has defined very well that there has to be an accessible availability of food sufficient in the country, there has to be accessibility, and there has to be affordability. Just because we produce enough in the country and store 60 million hectare tons in our FCI godowns doesn't mean that Indians are having enough food. We need to make it accessible. That means we should have a strong logistics in such a way that we're able to reach out the required quantity of food to every nook and corner of this country. But more importantly, after having reached out to the villages, we need to create that affordability among the people such that they will buy what they want to buy. All right, we have been able to do that, and let's give us a thumbs up to the Indian policy formulation and the society at large. But as I told you, as far as nutrition is concerned, we are not there still home. Now, do we have a definition for nutrition security? I think we can only rely upon, though it's a common sense, but let's now, as we all love definitions and some framework. UNICEF gave us a framework sometime in 1990s. So what is nutrition security? First thing is, yes, it has to be available and accessible, likely. That's the first requirement. And the second very important thing is, what are the feeding practices? And that is what constitutes, or the feeding practices and general health care system is what is going to ensure a nutrition security. And the third pillar of this nutrition security is to what is the external environment. In the sense, what is the health environment, what is the drinking water, sanitation, and a related environment in the country. So these three things are actually going to define to what extent India can actually become nutrition secure soon. If this is going to be the framework for us, we also now need to know as to what exactly is the pathway to achieve this kind of a nutritional security. All of us are aware that India is a land of small and marginal farmers, and integrated farming in a way is innate to Indian agriculture. But of course, unfortunately, over the last 30 years, where we started practicing more of monocropping because of kind of research and policy support that we had, rather a skewed policy support in this country, where we gave larger support to certain crops like paddy and wheat at the cost of nutri-cereals, at the cost of pulses, at the cost of oil seeds. Today we have got a skewed cropping system in our country. And in the integrated farming, which was actually so natural and innate to the Indian agriculture system, has also got substituted by the monocropping. So therefore, the subsistence agriculture, which is much maligned one, also can be reinvigorated to actually make it nutrition secure for the families. That means if you have a proper integrated farming system, it is first a risk negotiating tool, because it is not then all the eggs are not in one basket called paddy or wheat or something else. Integrated farming, it has got more than one crops, it has got more than one agri system, it could be having livestock, it could be having a dairy, it could be having a poultry, etc. So therefore, innately an integrated farming becomes a risk negotiating tool, and also now since it is going to have cereals and pulses and dairy, etc., is also going to generate required nutrition for the family. The second one, of course, is that we can't be only relying on this thing. As you know, we are all aiming at doubling farmers' income, and I told you in my contextual remark that India has yet to ensure that farmers are income secure. There's so much of poverty among the people. Once we start telling the farmers that you need to look at the markets and start producing what the markets can actually purchase, so naturally there will be some amount of market-led economy in agriculture too. If that happens, then how do we ensure a food security, nutrition security? So when you have a market-led approach, then what is going to happen is it is possible that some farmers who are large will be able to produce cereals as well as pulses and also dairy, etc. But larger number of people would be producing one or two of these components, and they have to earn enough from whatever they produce such that they are able to purchase the other requirements from the market. Now all of us have learned that there is a calorie deficiency, there is a protein deficiency, and then there is a micronutrient deficiency. Let's say the small and marginal farmers, depending upon the local agroclimatic conditions, are either able to grow a cereal, it could be a staple cereal, or it could be a nutri-cereal, or it could be only pulses or something like that. But then they have to earn so much from that. Then they should be able to purchase the fruits and vegetables and other kinds of micronutrient carrying commodities from the market. So can agriculture in that context ensure that the farmers are able to generate enough income such that they are able to ultimately balance their nutrition. That is the second aspect of it. The third important aspect is that now, what about the women? Because lots of studies across the globe have taught us, particularly in the poorer countries like Asian and African countries, that if we are able to empower women, then the women will ensure that the nutrition of the family, and more particularly the nutrition of the children, is taken care of. Because innately the mother's tendency is to always look at the children, unlike the men in the house. So if we are able to educate, impart skills, and teach them a value of nutrition, then the women folk would be able to ensure that the family and children in particular, because the growing age is very important, they are all taken care of nutritionally. So that's very important. We must not forget the women empowerment in this whole nutrition security. And the fourth one, of course, is that what happens to the prices in the commodity? Yes, somebody has, one person has told very rightly that everybody on the earth is somehow related to agriculture. It is not necessary for you to be an agriculturist. Even those who do not practice agriculture are linked to agriculture because you're a consumer. And that is the first requirement for every human being, that he has to keep his body and soul together. So as long as everybody on this earth is linked to food, and that is agriculture, so what are the real prices of the commodities in the market? Yes, we need to balance the interests of the farmer, the producers, because their incomes have to be risen. Simultaneously, consumers also must have accessibility and affordability to all kinds of commodities for food and nutrition security. So therefore, in order to balance the interests of the producers and the consumers, which are apparently in the contradictory, we need to have proper policy so that the consumers as a class are able to access nutrition from the market wherever they, in different forms that they need to. So that's very important. And another important aspect is that how does agriculture contribute to the general GDP of the economy? Because unless every sector, primary sector, including agriculture, secondary sector and tertiary sector, they should be able to make a marked contribution to the general economy, so that the growth, not only the growth is happening, but the purchasing power of the people also is being taken care of. Unless we ensure that the purchasing power of the people increases, we will not be able to ensure nutrition security. Because you will always find that a poorer family is much dependent only on calories, because it has to just keep its body and soul together. Only this differentiation in the kinds of food that we consume starts happening when you have extra money to pay. So therefore, then we start purchasing eggs or milk or fruits and vegetables, fish, etc. So purchasing power of the people is extremely important. Today, what is happening? Now, let's come to the next issue, that if we say that purchasing power is important, is it going to ensure the nutrition security? Once again, I would like to emphasize that purchasing power or economic growth is only a necessary condition. It is not a sufficient condition. It is not a sufficient condition because unless we are able to educate the people as to what to eat, how to eat, in what form to eat, we will not be able to take care of nutrition. It is therefore not surprising that India today is a land of irony. On one side, we've got malnourishment, which also includes undernourishment, and on the other hand, we also have the largest number of obesity cases, largest number of diabetes, and sometimes people are calling this as a diabetes capital of the world. So why is this happening? Which only means that emerging economies like India, where the purchasing power of a certain class is increasing, and that's a very substantive class in 20 crore population in India, these people don't know how to eat or what to eat. So you find them, they are eating so imbalanced that they are consuming more oil than required, more sugar than required, more carbohydrates than required. While the recommendation of the nutritionists, for example, is to consume about 18 kg of edible oil per person per annum, in India, we're already at 19 kgs. On one side, we're spending 73,000 crore on importing edible oils, and on the other side, the people are eating more than required. And at the current levels of growth by 2022-23, Indians will be consuming anywhere near 31 kgs of edible oil per person per annum. It's an irony. So therefore, the lesson is that we need to start educating the people about proper nutrition. So I think these are what is, I would say, very important issues. And I would before ending up, let me tell you that yes, now we have the luxury of having the food security. When we started actually rolling out Green Revolution in the 1960s, it was required. It was a reaction. It was more than a response. It was a reaction. India was food hungry. We needed to buy food at any cost, produce food at any cost, and therefore people, revolutionaries like Dr. Swaminathan responded appropriately and ensured that India became food secure. But today we have the luxury of the food security, and therefore we should be able to use this particular latitude to now change the cropping geometry. Now the cropping geometry needs to change according to the agroclimatic conditions. 54% of Indian cultivated areas under rain-fed systems, which cannot sustain paddy, which cannot sustain other water-guzzling crops like sugar cane, wheat, etc. These are the agroclimatic conditions, these are the cultivation systems most appropriate for low water duty, climate resilient, climate smart crops like the nutri-cereals. In fact, unfortunately, in India, where hierarchy is the order of the day, these nutri-cereals had been called as core cereals. Look at that. We call rice and wheat as fine cereals, and we call these as core cereals. So this year, Government of India, it dawned upon them, and we said, all right, we need to change this terminology. So we notified in the Gazette, no more core cereals. Please stop using the word core cereal. Now it's called nutri-cereal because they have high nutrients. They are very, glycemic index is extremely good. You eat in the morning, you don't feel hungry till afternoon or till evening. So therefore, your body will be under control. You don't have to put on a weight. So therefore, the nutri-cereals are extremely suited for these kind of areas. But unfortunately, the research has not focused on them. While the average production of a nutri-cereal in the country, that is jawar, bajra, etc., is 1.1 ton per hectare. In case of paddy, we already touched 2.6 tons per hectare. In case of wheat, also we are almost around 2.5 tons per hectare. Look at the anomaly. That one side, a wheat farmer or a paddy farmer will be able to get twice or more than twice what a jawar farmer or a bajra farmer or a ragi farmer in a Koraput district of Odisha can get, which only means that we are not being fair to that farmer. So therefore, we now research and development has to focus on these crops and yield appropriate varieties where the yields will go up. And the related issue to this is that how do we ensure that they also are getting nutri-dense, not just calorie-dense. Now, we have been talking about in rice, for example, can you have biofortified rice, zinc-based, for example, or iron-based? Because India is highly deficient in iodine, highly deficient in iron content among the nutrition of the people. So therefore, we need to have crops which are now not just high yielders. So far, the focus was on high yielding. Today, we need to have nutri-dense crops. So therefore, research and development, which is the source, that has to get corrected. So there has to be a reorientation of the mindset and approach of the scientists in this country. And parallelly, unless, as Dr. Swaminathan said in the morning, that Indian Green Revolution has been a success only because technology was supplemented by policy. So the policy support came in the form of appropriate nutrient management and also policy in the price support scheme. So therefore, now this year, what Government of India has done is, has increased the MSP for nutri-cereals much more than what it has done for paddy and wheat. It has increased the MSP for pulses much more than what it has done for other crops. And therefore, now the pulse grower, the nutri-cereal grower would be able to take advantage because he now gets better incentive. But simultaneously, what Government of India is now going to roll out is to have a robust mechanism of procurement. Because just notifying a minimum support price is only to dangle a carrot that you are going to get this. But so far, you know that India has been only procuring wheat and paddy, and there has been very little of procurement of other crops. So now we are working on a robust policy mechanism where we start procuring nutri-cereals, pulses, and oil seeds alongside paddy and wheat. Only when this kind of a procurement happens, then the farmer gets incentivized. And we have seen that in the last 2 years, when we increase our procurement of pulses, for example, we were not procuring more than 1 million, not even 1 million, about 5 lakh tons before 2014. But in the last 3 years, we have been procuring pulses more and more year after year. We have 4.6 million tons of buffer of pulses in our godowns today. We don't know what to do with that. We are now thinking of giving it to the state governments to start distributing through the PDS. Okay, so once this kind of a thing happens, we have seen the farmers jump the production from 16 million tons in 2016-17 to 23 million tons in 2016 in 1 year, 7 years. And this year, we are going to cross 24 million tons. We have stopped importing pulses now. You know, we were spending thousands of crores on importing pulses. We just stopped it now. And in 2018-19, our target is to produce 25 million tons. India requires around 26 million tons of pulses, and we are sure of reaching that thing. So that means there has to be that kind of nutrition-specific agricultural policy, a nutrition-specific technology, because technology is the starting point. So I will stop here because I've taken more than 15 minutes. I think there's a lot that we can discuss, and it is very, very appropriate that this MSSRF has initiated this, because if somebody, almost a demigod like Dr. Swaminathan in agriculture, and somebody like him speaks, then the whole world listens. So I think now Government of India will listen, the commoners will listen. So I'm sure it will get the proper perspective, and we therefore declared this particular 2018 as the year of millets. We're going to have road shows across the country to create awareness about nutri-cereals. We have also written to FAO to notify one particular year as the International Year of the Millets. But unfortunately, we are still in the long queue. Many people are in the queue. So possibly after 3-4 years, our turn may come to notify as the International Year of the Millets. But we thought without waiting for them, let's start. And we have started. I look forward to everybody's support. Thank you very much.